So good morning and welcome. So we are in the, I believe this is week 4 or 5. I'm losing track of my weeks. Hopefully you're on target yourselves, and certainly hope that you had a great and productive coaching week last week. So today I'm super excited. I am going to give you another amazing tool, but this is a framework. And it's a framework that I use in all my coaching. So it really doesn't matter what the situation is, and it doesn't matter which tool I'm using, whether it's the tool of questions, whether it's the tool of feedback. This framework that I'm going to introduce you to today is the foundation of how to use those questions that I showed you in week 2, and it's also the foundation of how to give feedback. So I introduce you to the tools first. They're really easy, they're simple. It's just really because of practice, you'll become more and more proficient at using those tools. But I have found that if you have a framework on which to lay those tools, you're going to sail even more smoothly in your coaching sessions with your direct reports, and you're going to be better able to get them to see exactly the process that you're going through. Some of you have mentioned to me in your blog posts that you like tools, you like guidelines, and that's why I do what I do. I develop these tools and I develop the framework so that you have something that you can work with, and you know this is step 1, step 2, 3, 4, etc. And that way you do it consistently and it becomes a part of who you are. So for myself, I don't even think about this anymore. I just do it. It's just how I have, developed myself to think and to work with my clients as well as my family. So super excited about the framework I'm going to introduce you to today. So just as a way of recapping, last week we wrapped up with feedback, and we also looked at the different types of feedback, right? So we have the formal and the informal. Formal usually done 2 times or so a year. Some organization, they do it once a year. The informal feedback is where you get the most bang for your buck, for your time, because that's where you catch problems as they are emerging, and that's where you're better able to really get on top of things with your direct reports and really stop things from getting out of hand. And it's those informal feedback now that you can use to document all of what's happened over a period of time. Keep that file. You know, none of you have actually said to me whether you do have a record of these coaching conversations, these development conversations you've been having with your direct reports. I want to hear from you. Those conversations that you're having and that you're documenting, you date it, document exactly what you talked about, exactly what your coach has agreed to do. They become incredible data for you to use during the formal feedback process, the formal performance appraisal time. Makes your job way easier, and it actually takes the surprise out of anything that might not be so great with your direct reports. They're not going to be surprised because you were giving them this ongoing informal feedback. So please let me know in one of your posts or even via an email whether you are keeping a file of your conversation, their development. It's a development record that you're keeping, and I really hope that you are doing it, because there's numerous other reasons why and how those records will come in handy for you. Then I walked you through the 6 steps of giving feedback, the importance of gathering your facts, so you are focusing on objective information, and And then I walked you through step 2, which is acknowledgement, where you look for something that your coachee is doing right, and you always, always, always lead with that. Always. Doesn't matter what it is that you may have to give corrective feedback about. You want to affirm your direct reports, your coachees, and build their confidence. And that's why you acknowledge them, because when they're confident, when they feel that you absolutely care about them, they are open and willing to learn. And then step 3 is focus on the specific issue. Do not get distracted by side things. Just hone into the issue. Then you're going to identify solutions and look for agreement. Get your coachee to agree. And then you're going to move them into action. And remember, when you're coaching, it always ends in action. There's always something that you want to leave the session with that they're going to do. And that's what you write in your little record that you're keeping of your development conversations with your coachees. So you always will say, hey, Phyllis, great session. Really appreciate the insights that you brought to our talk today. So just as a way of the two of us being on the same page, what is it that you've agreed to do when you leave here? So that's how you get them to wrap up and tell you the actions that they're willing to take. And they will list 1, 2, 3, however many actions, and you say, absolutely, you know, that's what I recall as well. Or if there's something that they've left out that you want them to do, you acknowledge that they've identified 3, and you say, can you just allow me to add 1 more? I think we're forgetting number 4, and you just put that in. And then again, you confirm, is this what you say you'll do? When will you do it? And then you follow up and follow through. That's how you set your follow-up appointment. 6 steps for giving effective corrective feedback. You have your resources. I encourage you to use it. I say print those 6 steps off. If possible, stick them on somewhere in your offices where you can see those 6 steps so that you consistently follow the process. Acknowledge, gather the facts, acknowledge specific issue, solutions, action, follow up, follow through, and you become really deliberate, and that's how you coach your own direct reports into following suit. Okay, so that's just a brief overview. There are many other things that we talked about in terms of feedback, but you do have the recordings that you could go through as well as the handout. So today's session, we're going to, as I said, look at a framework on which you can lay everything that I have shared with you from week 1 all the way up to where we are today. And that is called the IDARE coaching model. And IDARE is an acronym that stands for 5 things. The I, number 1, I is intention. I'm going to introduce you to intention, show you questions again that you can ask in order to dig into intention, define what it is. And then number 2 is D, which stands for desire. And we'll let you know why desire is a very important part of us being able to do what we say we will do, as well as of our coachees being able to do what they say they will do. And then A is action. Remember, you're coaching, there will always be action in it. R stands for results. And I'm going to show you how, even before you get your coachees to take action, you can get them to predict the kind of results that they would like to see if they were to take a particular action. And then the final letter in IDARE is E, which stands for evaluate or evaluation. In life, not very many of us were taught to stop, pause, and look back, not just on things that didn't go well. That's human tendency, is to look back at things that didn't work well. I want you to do that because you need to learn from those lessons. I also want you to look back at the things that worked well, and I'll show you in a little while how to do just so using the IDARE coaching model. So that's what IDARE stands for, and at the end of this 8 weeks, it will be in your heads. You'll get so used to it. So without further ado, let us go into the session for today. So here's our agenda. I am going to show you how to use IDARE to engage people. So this session for this week is more the theory around IDARE. And next week, we're going to finish off on the model and put it in practice, show you how in a variety of coaching situations, how to use IDARE. But let's get the theory under our belts first. How to use IDARE to engage people and why intention is key for getting buy-in. You got to get people to buy into you, remember, first, before they can buy into your idea, your plan, etc. And then I'm going to show you the power behind a process. How process helps deliver value to customers and organizations. For those of you on the call who might, cringe when I say value to customers, you're thinking, oh, we're not a retail store, nor a movie theater, or a mall or anything like that. We don't have customers. I really hope none of you are thinking like that, because your parents are your customers. The parents who leave their precious children with you are your customers, and they are your biggest customers, and they are the ones who have told you clearly that what you're selling, they're willing to buy, which is service, childcare service, top notch. Many of you are running amazing, childcare centers, and that's what parents are buying. As a parent, that is what I'm buying. Not just the fact that you have a place, a space, and some bodies to kind of watch over my children. No, 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 no. I want you to deliver incredible value to me before I buy into putting my child into your childcare center. So they are your customers, and customers need to be taken care of. And of course, your center is an organization. And then thirdly, we're going to look at purpose, and actually we'll lead off with purpose first. Why purpose matters in the workplace. Understanding each other's intention is the key for knowing why purpose matters in the workplace. So now, talking about delivering value. So you can see on your screen here 3 main topics or heading: purpose, process, people. If any of you have ever taken any course in lean management, it's a way of thinking about how to develop your people so that they have a clear understanding of your purpose, and that there are clear processes that will come out of knowing why you do what you do, so that your people can follow this process and consequently deliver consistent, high quality, insane value to your customers. So these 3 main topics are the key ingredients of the lean management, lean leadership process or program, and it's a way of thinking. And this started out in manufacturing industries, believe it or not, and very, very soon organizations, hospitals, children's center, schools, you name it, have come to realize, whoa, this doesn't just apply to making cars or to manufacturing certain goods and products. This also applies to running a child care center. This applies to dealing with parents of children, right? If we're clear on our purpose, if we're clear on the processes that we need to have in place for people to follow, I'm going to show you later on why that makes for a happier set of people and how you can use your IDARE formula to do so. So under purpose, it says here, people commit to causes, not to plans. So I want you to take a couple seconds and really think about that statement. People commit to causes, not to plans. If you remember Martin Luther King's speech where he was on Washington, D.C., and he was addressing thousands of people. Martin Luther King didn't go up there and say, "Hey, I have an idea." No, he said, "I have a dream." And this dream, and he went on and he told a beautiful story about the dream he had, and he painted such a powerful and vivid picture that the 200 odd thousand men and women who were gathered at the Lincoln Memorial were sold. They bought into his cause. Black, white, pink, green, everyone who was there bought in, and those who weren't there, those who were there told them, and they too bought into it. He had a cause, and it wasn't an idea. So when you're leading, what I'm hoping you'll get out of this 8-week coaching course, no matter the size of your child care center, no matter how small your staff might be, you are still charged with delivering a service to your customers, and you need to do so by having a clear purpose. And your big overarching purpose is you're in the service industry of providing childcare. But your cause has got to be bigger than that. How do we make sure when these little kids are dropped off in our center and they're here with us for 8, 9 hours out of the day, however many hours, how do we make it the most valuable time possible so that their parents, when their parents come, those kids should not want to leave? In fact, let me just share a quick story with you. When our younger son was ready to, leave home, so to speak, and I was at home, I could have kept him there with me till whenever I decided to go back to work, but I knew the value of putting him in a childcare setting with other children, but with amazing, stimulating providers, childcare providers. So we had him enrolled in this incredible program. It was a Montessori-based program. 2.5 years old he was, and very attached to me. He was that child where I could not go to the bathroom without this child just sticking to hanging on to a leg, an arm, my dress tail, you name it. He was very attached to me, and I celebrated it because I knew the day would come where asking for a kiss or a hug would be far and few in between. And that day has arrived. I get them once, I don't know, every couple of weeks now. Before it was all the time. So I've enrolled him in this program, and of course he was really, nervous about it, anxious. I was too, but I knew it would be good for him. And so I had to set my own little anxiety aside and put him in. I had researched the place, got some wonderful reviews from other parents. And so my poor child, I left him there, but he's hanging on to me. You guys know the routine, right? You've seen it. Didn't want me to go, "Mommy, no, don't leave me." And I'm like, "Son, you're going to have such a great time. Look at all these little kids." I'm pumping him up. Inside, I'm dying. Anyway, the teachers gently took him, and that was day 1. Day 2, we went through a little bit of that. Day 3, I was expecting the same. My child showed up the 3rd day, and he's like, "See you later, Mommy." He's gone. And I'm like, wow. I wasn't really surprised because I heard some great things about this place, but I'm like, 3 days? I was thinking maybe, 3 weeks before he adjusted. 3 days. And then went back 2.5 hours later to pick him up. It was just a half-day venture. And he's like, "No, I don't want to leave." And he's crying, not wanting to leave. And the thing is, exactly what I'm saying. That place delivered incredible value for what I was paying, and it showed in my child. I felt so comfortable leaving him there that, we both looked forward to just going down. And even when he ended up going full time, it was the best thing for him. And that kid just shined and developed. Why? Those people had a clear cause, a clear purpose. They were not just childminders, but they were there to develop children, young children. And you all probably are familiar with the Maria Montessori way, and that is what their cause was. And they delivered it insanely, amazingly well. Loved it. So that's what I mean. Be clear on your purpose. Don't be fooled by the fact that you're a childcare center, and that's what you do. There's more that you can do. So the most successful strategies are visions. What is your vision for your center? And that's why the IDARE coaching model is going to come in really helpful to help you really flesh out what is your intention. Why are you doing what you're doing? All right? Then the process. Everything is a process, right? Managing, leading people is a process. To go back to that center where I left my son, there was a clear process to how they got those kids engaged, where it was time for, small group work, big group work, individual, because they're feeding now on all the different personality types that the kids come with. They know some of the kids are going to need time by themselves. They know some will need time with just one or two other of the children, and they also know they will need to learn how to operate in a big group setting. You guys know this. I want you to make it deliberate, and I want you to just really, lead with this clear process in mind. People. Get your people to solve problems and improve their job. I might have mentioned it in previous sessions. Do not be the answer or the giver of answers to every problem that your people come knocking at your door with. You ask them questions. I hear what you're saying there, Phyllis. What do you think? How do you think we should go about solving this? This is you getting your people to be part of delivering amazing value. And there's a saying, and it's a cycle. Usually I have a little slide to show you, but it says, the more questions my people ask me, then the more answer I give them is the more question my people ask me, the more answer I give them is more question. And it's this circle that just keeps going around and around. You don't want to be that kind of manager, leader, executive director, because it wears you down, and it's called putting fires out. Get your people to solve problems and improve their job, but you have to get comfortable in giving up some of your power, your authority, and be comfortable knowing that developing people means enabling them to act, empowering them to take action, giving them the support to speak up and speak out without fear of any sort of negative reprisal. So align your people now to provide value to those you serve, your customers, and align them to provide value to your organization. Really powerful stuff, and I hope you can see how excited I am about this. So here's I call it the naked, somewhat naked view of the IDARE coaching model. And the first 2 weeks, I actually shared numbers 1 and 2 with you. The assess readiness for change and to create presence, right? And then now, today, we're going to focus on the 5 remaining components, which is identify intention, number 4, which is the desired solutions, 5, accept actions, 6, predict results, 7, follow through and follow up, and number 8, evaluate. I'm going to show you another version of the model that has some questions filled in that you can actually ask your coachees, so that way you start preparing them to solve problems and improve their jobs. And that's how you really get high quality service given to your customers. When your board gets whiff of what you're doing in your center, you'll just blow them away. And that's what you want to do with people. You want to deliver insanely high quality service or product. So this model is what we use to help you walk through, and you actually have a copy of it in the handout on the website. If you haven't already done so, after your session, please go and you can download it, and I encourage you to just print it and use it as your way of preparing for each of your direct reports. The bottom line is that when you're working with them, you want to, I mentioned it earlier, have, consistency. So you don't want to be just kind of haphazard. So in this one session, you kind of follow this process, and then the other one, you're all over the place. It really helps you to be consistent and deliberate. So there's a copy of this, the more naked version, on the site, and I deliberately posted that one because if you print it, you now are better able to develop one for each of your direct reports. So when you can write your little notes in the blank slots that you're seeing here on the slide, and you can write what they say is their intention, the solutions they're going to take, the actions, and so on. And I'll share with you exactly how to get them to get to that point. Remember to use the chat function should you have any questions or comments that you wish to share, and or raise the hand should you wish to ask a question. So this is the baseline IDARE coaching model, 8 components in total. Because we addressed the 2 others in the first 2 weeks, we're going to focus on the remaining portion of this. So I was actually coaching you on it, and you didn't even know that. Isn't that sneaky of me? So here now is the full version of the model that I want to show you. So the IDARE coaching model. So this little centerpiece here just really summarizes everything. Notice in the center is the coachee, not you, not the board. These are your people. Like, we can't do work without people. We can't serve our customers without people. These are your staff. They're your most important resources. Many organizations tend to think that you need to focus on the customers first and make them happy, keep them happy, while neglecting their people. Doesn't work that way. If your people, who are the very ones touching your customers, are not happy, then you can't have customers who are happy. You got to take care of your people, your direct reports, your employees, your staff, right? And so they're at the center of this model. And so we need to understand their intention. So let's look at when was it, 3 weeks or so, we looked at assessing readiness for change. And these are some powerful questions, examples of powerful questions that you can ask them. I want to show you how everything that you've learned so far actually tie in to the model. Where you're seeing here on your slide, there's an A, an uppercase A. It says A, check for assumption and create awareness. So if you can recall the question tool, ADCA, A-A-D-C-A, this is how you use ADCA alongside the model. So when you ask questions around someone's readiness for change, you're going to start off first by asking things such as, so, let's say you have an employee, say, so Brenda, so what do you see as the situation here? Or what do you see as the challenge? And next week I'm going to give you some dialogue and show you very specifically how to coach someone through the situation. But these are the kinds of questions that will get you to assess Brenda's assumption, as well as start creating some awareness in her regarding how she looks at the situation at hand. And you want to see, you could start off with, so what do you see as the issue? Or you could simply say, so how do you see the issue? Notice the difference between those two questions that I'm asking, but they're both designed to assess assumption and create awareness, because people will have thoughts and ideas and emotions around a particular issue, situation, or challenge, but they haven't developed the skill to emotionally express, right? So remember emotional self-expression? Again, that's why I showed you the connection between coaching, having that coaching approach, and emotional intelligence. So all you're doing is helping them to tap into what they're feeling and giving them words now to express it. But the words you're giving are not putting words in their mouths. You're asking questions, and they're very focused questions. How? How do you see the situation, right? They now have to focus in on, okay, how do I really see this? And that's where next week I'll show you just kind of how to more dig into it. Then something along the line of, so what do you believe to be true about the situation? And this is a real powerful question, because sometimes people have things that they are convinced is the truth. And guess what? It's not. I've been around long enough to know that none of us really have the goods on the truth. We have variations of what could be the truth, but we don't have the full story. So you asking this question is opening up the opportunity to have a beautiful dialogue with your people. And on it goes. So why do you hold this position? So here is an example of how to use the why question. So after you've done all the preliminary questions and so on and help them, it's really appropriate now that you can ask a why kind of question. And then, so what impact do you think this view, this perspective would have on the fellow co-workers, on the kids, on the parents? So you're going to put in, what is important for you at that time in the center. So this is number one. We did look at readiness for change, but I kind of wanted to dive a little bit into it today and show you the connection. Nothing that you're learning in this course is separate. Everything is connected, and that's what makes coaching such a powerful field for you to incorporate in your practice. Number two, where we talked about creating presence. And again, this is where the acknowledgement that you've learned about and affirming and building confidence comes in from feedback as well as from just learning how to build presence. So notice in brackets it says here, acknowledge and build coachees' confidence. You always start off by acknowledging them. And again, I shared with you the 7 steps to be fully present, and those are repeated here. So these are just reminders for you. Do your homework, right? Prepare, be on time, don't get distracted. We've gone through these. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it is important that it's a part of the model because everything is connected. Nothing is separate, okay? And then now here's where we start getting into IDARE. So here is the first in the acronym intention. So intention is, I'm going to skip and just give you a quick, I'm going to come back to this slide here and show you how to ask certain questions, but I want you to see why intention is important. So I'm just going to go to this one, and that way get a little bit of definition here. So just bear with me. So intention and purpose, right? So intention now are those core beliefs that you bring to the table, that your direct reports bring to the table. And it's what drives you. It's what you really, really, really value. So some people value harmony, you know, so in the workplace, they want to make sure everybody is happy, which is awesome. That is great. So no matter the conflict that might be going on, because the core beliefs that you hold, one of them is harmony, that is what you'll work for. From the parents' side, the children, your staff, etc. Right? So intention is the core beliefs that drive you, or what you really, really, really value. It is also what you really want to achieve. And my challenge to each of you today, the homework blog link has already been sent out. I believe I sent it yesterday. And it lists these 5 steps. And there are some questions, but feel free to just write what you feel is coming up, you know, about the topic at hand, but what you really want to achieve. So as the executive director, assistant director, team leader, as a staff member, you might want to achieve something, but you don't even know how to go about doing it. And I'm hoping that at the end, not even the end of this course, but right now, you're able to go back to your centers and start a dialogue. Just simply start asking some baseline questions around. So, you know, I know that we're here to care for the kids. Is there something more? Is there something bigger that we're about? And that sounds like a, you know, out there kind of question to some people. But my role is to challenge you to move from where you're at to a higher level, because that's growth. And it also means I got to challenge you so that you start feeling some discomfort. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that, fellas. You know, things are fine the way they are. That's you settling. And I don't want you to settle. So intention and purpose are tied together, and they also shape your attitude. Who are you at work? What kind of attitude do you bring to the workplace? What kinds of attitudes are your staff members showing up with? I had one lady, I just finished a 6-month contract with a childcare center here in the city, and there was one lady out of, I don't know, we had about 30 people in the session for the 6 months. And that woman spoke once, and it was in the last session where we were doing a bit of, you know, checking in, going back over what we've learned, lessons learned, you know, solutions that we came up with or they came up with. And I asked the question, so is there something that is eating away at anyone that you feel we didn't resolve over the previous 6 months? And she spoke. And that was the only time she spoke. Her attitude through the entire 6 months, you look at her face, you'd be afraid to approach her. She kind of had an angry look on her face, very withdrawn, you know, separated herself, didn't participate in the exercises at all. And when she did, it was very, very minimal. And she started on about an issue around the kitchen, and you know how they were leaving the kitchen and nothing was being done. Very, 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 very negative. And that was her attitude through the entire 6 months of dealing with her. Had a conversation with the executive director over the 6 months, and she said that's how she shows up from the however many years she's been working there. And her attitude, you could see when she's in the group, whichever group she's working with, was really impacting on the freedom that the others wanted to demonstrate in participating fully, but that energy was so negative that, you know, it was like sucking the life out of the group. And yeah, so that was the only time she spoke, and it was to talk about something that was not working. So what is your attitude, you know, and how is your intention shaping your attitude, right? Is it one that's designed to really build up your group, build up your team? Let's take a look at a couple of more areas before I go back to the model. How does what you really value shape your job performance? So the woman that I mentioned, you know, she was an okay worker. And I suspect that if she had really maybe dropped that facade, I have a sneaky feeling it was a mask that she's wearing. She had some anger issue, but deal with those, you know, and sort of be open to learning and changing. I suspect that she would do an even better job at that center, and that she would even have a healthier relationship with her coworkers. So how does what you really value shape your job performance? That is intention. You got to know your core beliefs. You got to know what you value, and you really got to know, you know, how does this impact on my attitude? What kind of attitude am I bringing to work every day? And then what you really value could be the source of poor or great performance. Hello? So if you are the proverbial glass is half empty kind of person, then guess what? That's the kind of job performance you're going to be getting. Kind of half empty, half good. And of course, the opposite holds true. So now you also want to ask questions, right? Such as, you know, does my core beliefs, do they help with my center's vision? Do they help? But you got to know what your center's vision is. And remember what I said. It has to be bigger than providing child care. That is what puts you in business in the first place, right? That is why you're in business, to care for children while their parents are at work. But what is that big overarching intention? What do you really want to achieve as a center? So you got to know whether your core beliefs actually help with the organization's vision. And you also want to know, what do your colleagues value? So that's how now you start operating on, like, with this framework. If you're going to create a coaching environment in your centers, you will need to have a group of core individuals who are sharing the same sort of message and operating on the same framework, okay? So give me 1 second here, pardon me. Oh, missed that. I usually have everything turned off and I forgot about that. Apologies. So anyway, these are just some of the ways in which intention actually impact on you. So let me go back to that slide, to the model, and then we'll look at some questions that you can ask. Alrighty, so let's just open that up and go back to intention. So knowing that intention now is what you actually value, what you believe, and so on, when you're working with your direct reports, even your board, when you sit in on those board meetings, put your hand up, and if you're sensing that there isn't a clear intention or direction here, you got to ask those questions. And notice again, A, check assumptions and create awareness. So what do you value? So what do we value as a center? What do we really, really want to achieve out of this meeting? And then moving forward, what are the core beliefs that's driving us? These are all examples of powerful questions that you can ask. And this is you using question as a tool right here. How aware of our true purpose are the staff, for example? And as a director, as a leader, manager, you name it, have I done a good enough job communicating that to them? So you got to get clear on intention. How do, say, the staff see the impact of what they value on others? You know, are there important people now who are shaping? So here's a real story. Had a chat with a manager just late last week, and they're coming up to Christmas time, so they're doing a big promotion. It's a technology company, and they have their big promotion for the festive season. They want more people to buy more phones and so on and so forth. And they had asked for their leaders, the supervisors, managers, to be around at that time, not to take vacation. One lady, one manager decided it's her vacation time. She's going to go when she wants to go. So she did. She took some 2 or 3 weeks off during their busiest period. Now, that was bad. But what she ended up doing was to convince one of her key direct reports, so this is a frontline worker who reports up to her, that she too should take her vacation around that time. And this person had already told the director that she will be present during that busy season and that she'll take her vacation after. No, this manager who decided to go, not thinking big and so on about the impact, influenced her direct report, who then went and pulled back her what she'd said she'd do and put in that she too would be away. So this question here, how does the coachee perceive the impact of significant others, is a very important one. You want to phrase that question in a way for you to understand whether others are influencing and impacting in a negative way on the others. And of course, what do they really want to achieve, whether there is any difficulty of them moving forward. So these are all very important questions that you need to ask. And again, you know, let's just quickly go to, there's a slide here I want to show you. So intention shapes purpose. And so you want to make sure now that whatever conversations you're having with your staff, you got to know how is it going to impact on the process? How do they do the work and do the work well? That's the power behind this tool and the power behind using those kinds of questions. You know, why must, as managers, we get our intention and purpose clear? I mentioned some of those reasons. You got to be clear on what you value, know what your beliefs are, know how they shape what you value, and know how they actually shape your attitude and how you show up at work. And right now, I hope you're beginning to see how IDARE can support having clear purpose. And it's just simply through knowing what kinds of questions to ask. So let's go back to the framework. And I want to now introduce you to desire. So before I go there, let's go look at the framework. So we're going to look at desired solutions. So we've addressed I, right? So let's go through this. We've addressed I. Let's look at desired solutions. And I want to point out to you that if you can see the D in brackets here, that's ask questions to discover solutions. So that's you really still using ADCA to facilitate this process. And, you know, at first you might think, oh, how am I going to remember all of this? Don't worry about it. If you just choose one of these steps in the 8 steps on this model and practice your question with that one, then you become really confident with it and you just move on to doing another one. And over time, that's how you're just going to become more proficient. So desired solution now means that you need, from having the conversation with your direct reports about their intention, you are going to be moving them into solution. And next week, I'm going to show you how to do so with some specific examples. But I just want to introduce you to the framework, show you how it shapes purpose, process, and people. Remember those three key ingredients. So here are some sample questions around discovering solutions, the D in ADCA, and that is, how much control of the situation do you feel you have? So someone, you have a direct report come to your office complaining about something, etc. And after you've done number 1 and 2 and you help them identify intention, now you're moving them forward. Let's look at some solutions, right? What do you see as your choices? What are the choices you see available to you? And if you were to go with any of these choices, how would they benefit you in this current situation? These are powerful questions, and they're designed to get your people to solve their problems and improve their job. Doesn't get any better than that. I'm a little bit excited about this. So let's switch back here to this slide. I want to show you this slide. I believe it's this one. So this is the desire slide, and it says, at the core of desire is the WIIFM. That's the station most people are tuned into. What's in it for me? Don't think that people are just going to come and very altruistically be like Mother Teresa and just show up and do work and you just do it unselfishly. Nope. They want to know what's in it for them. And that's why you ask those kinds of questions that I mentioned before, or that I showed you under D. You want to know from them, what do they hope to get out of it? That's intention. And then under Discover Solution now, you want to help them shape the desire that's driving them, right? So the solutions will show them what's in it for them. The solutions will show them what are their choices, because those are all the questions that you'll be asking. What do they have control over, etc. So very, very powerful questions, everyone, that if asked in a way will actually help your coachees to keep moving forward. And that is your baseline premise of coaching. So now, when you get to this stage, you want to find out from them, right? Solutions to take the vision to reality. So, you got to get people to think bigger than where they're at, who they'll need to help them make their vision a reality. And hey, as an executive director, assistant director, manager, supervisor, team leader, you too have vision. So you will need to ask yourselves these kinds of questions. And then also, you want to know what specific skills, knowledge, or resources that you bring to the table. Engaging your direct reports in this way empowers them. It makes them feel they're part of the process. It actually helps them to share in your vision. And having a shared vision is one of the 5 key leadership principles that most successful organizations practice. So be confident in knowing that if you get into that mindset to work with your direct reports in this way, even your parents, if you ever have meetings with the parents, give updates or whatever directions that you're moving the center in and you want to share it with them, this is how you need to get them to buy not only into you, but into your vision. And so what specific skills, knowledge, or resources do you bring? And not only you, the person leading that meeting, but you want to know what the staff have to bring, what your parents have to bring, okay? And then how much control do you and your collaborators have over the situation? So depending on who you're working with, right? You got to know what you have control over and what you don't have control over, because that sets the stage for where you move to in the next step. So certainly hope that you are finding some value here. And let me just take you back now to the model. And we're going to move into action. So let's just call all of that up. We've done intention, desired solutions. Number 5 says accept actions. See, actions is just super, super powerful. So I'm going to run through this, and then I'm going to show you a few more slides that sort of bring all of this together and have some clear, defined steps for the actions. I want to point out the C in the ADKA process here under accept actions. And C is ask questions to create change for action. Please be mindful. I want you to write this down. When your direct reports say they're going to do something, don't just let them run off and start doing it. You want to ask them questions now first, such as once they've come up with these solutions, you want to know, so what are the top 3 that really make sense to you? Here, I phrase it as, what are the top 3 solutions that resonate with the coachee? So you're going to use your own words, right? But the bottom line is you want to know which 3 are one that they'll choose. So that you start bringing them into that action mode. Then, still not ready to send them off to go do it, you want them to start thinking, what changes at work, home, or elsewhere must happen first before they actually move off into taking action. So that's why you ask questions that are designed to create change. Because again, if they just run off and start taking action but haven't really looked at what changes need to be made at work or home or elsewhere or even with one of their coworkers, the action is going to be stalled or it's going to be interrupted, or they're not going to get the kind of results that they're looking for. So if it's an attitude issue, again, so what changes in attitude must happen first before this action can be successfully taken? Or if it's how somebody sees something, their view, their perspective, what changes in how you see this situation needs to happen first before you take action, right? And which of the solutions will you accept for action? In the feedback tool, step number 4, I believe, is number 4, says identify solutions and accept and agree. That's your action right here. So remember, everything that you've done so far, it's all tied together. Makes no sense that the person just says, oh, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that. And you're like, great, and you write it down. But they never said they would. So you must remember to ask, so which solution will you accept to take action? And look at the last question here. When will the coachee take action? And that's what you record. So if they don't do it and you meet again, you come back and you'll say, hey, Phyllis, last time we met, great conversation. You came up with some great ideas and identified some very powerful solutions that you believe would really address the situation. My notes here showed me that you said you would do, and you just listed. How did you do? They can't tell you that they didn't say it. It was there. You document it. Because remember, even before they leave, you're going to get them to summarize what they say they will do, when they say they will do it, and when you're going to meet again. It is beautiful. I hope you're getting excited as I am about this. Quite love it. So I have, hopefully you're not too distracted with me going back and forth here, but we have quite a few slides that I need to show you, and they tie into the model. So here is the action one, just to highlight. Follow through and follow up. Follow through and follow up. Follow through and follow up. I can't stress that enough. Don't let people leave without knowing when they will do it and when you'll come back to follow up. Really, really important. Even your children, even your significant others in your life. Ask them, so when will you do it, and when can we connect to go over it or review it, etc. Follow through and follow up, right? These are the steps for action. Self-accountability. So there is when I go back to the IDARE model, I'm going to show you there's a section under follow through and follow up where it talks about how do you hold yourself accountable. Self-accountability, very, very powerful. And whether you'll need support to do so. And then the other one now is, remember I said, do not let them leave without knowing when they will start. So when will you start? Open question, very open, and it requires an answer. And you got to get an answer from them. How will you maintain momentum? So again, it's a little bit of predicting, some of the possible distractions that might happen along the way. And I'll show that to you as we go into the results section of the model. But this is very important, where you can create some scenarios and say, hey, Phyllis, if things don't go the way you want it to go because, and then you put some scenarios, how do you make sure that you maintain your momentum? That's getting people to really think more strategically and not get derailed by circumstances. So they become victims as opposed to being, having victory over their circumstances. So how will you maintain momentum? And then how will you keep yourself on track? What am I doing here with you? I'm showing you how to invest in one of the 3 key ingredients to creating a successful center. That is people. Remember, you need purpose, you need a process, and you need your people. When you ask questions like this of your direct reports, you are developing them to solve problems and improve their jobs. It's called self-accountability, right? And that's all part of emotional intelligence, self-accountability, knowing how to hold oneself accountable to do what you say you will do and do it to the best of your ability. Real powerful stuff here. So let's do one more quick switch before I give you a brief summary of where we are as we come up to the latter part of our session here. Awesome. So here is our model again. Intention, desired solutions. We've looked at action. So now let's look at number 6 in the IDARE coaching model, which is predict results. So earlier I said, again, note the A, ask questions to connect actions with intention. So this is an awareness type of question that you'll ask at this stage. So when you ask questions such as, how will these actions impact the situation? Creating awareness. That's what you're doing. That's the part behind your tool questions. What impact will these actions have on, say, your attitude, if that's what it is, attitude of others, kids, parents, etc.? Awareness. You're creating awareness. How will these actions impact overall on what you really want to achieve? This is how you get people to look ahead into the future and to take that step, to actually do the action in their heads first before they physically take action. That is the power behind imagination. Remember, Einstein said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Your ability to imagine and create, more powerful than any kind of learning knowledge. Because that's where knowledge comes from, is your ability to create and imagine. Get people to look ahead into the future and predict results before they take action. This takes us to number 7, the follow through and follow up. And here is where you're building in self-accountability. So when will you follow up with your coach? In this case, you're going to phrase it a bit differently and say, so, you know, Phyllis, we need to check back again with each other just to ensure that we're all on the same page. So when do you see us coming back? You know when you want to see them, but remember, you're enabling them to act. You're empowering them, enabling them. So you always let them lead first by asking questions. So when do you see us connecting again? And they'll say, oh, maybe in a week's time or so. And if a week is too long, if it's something that's really, really critical and you figure in the next 2 days would be better, you say, you know what, a week isn't the best way for us to go at this point, only because it's such an important situation or important matter. You'd agree with that, right? They say yes. So I'd like to propose that we connect back with each other in 2 days' time. What do you think about that? Notice I've just put it right back on them and to keep them in the conversation. You're the leader, you're the director, you're the manager. You do have that authority to say, we'll meet in 2 days. You don't want to treat people like that. You want them to know you really value them to be part of the process. So you do that. And then another accountability type of question is, I mentioned it earlier, how will you keep yourself on track, right? So this is now a momentum type of question. And then the final step in the process is evaluate and practice reflection. So you want to use this in your follow-up session. That's why I'm stressing the importance of you keeping a record dated. Always have it dated when you spoke with Brenda or Mary or, you know, whomever, and what you talked about, what the solutions were, when they said they would do it, and when you'll follow up again. And so now when they come back for their follow-up session, this is where you look back at what worked well and you ask, why did it work well? You want them to be, this is now progressive feedback that you're giving them. Why did it work well? What exactly did you do? So you want them to become very aware of this amazing process. And then for the things that didn't go so well, same question. Why didn't it work well? What didn't work well? Why didn't it work well? And part of evaluating is also knowing what kinds of supports they'll need in place to keep things moving forward, you know, what they'll need to do differently in order to achieve the desired solutions. What kinds of specific actions they'll need to take. How can they do more of what's already working? So I hope you can see the power behind this model and how all of what you've learned to date tie in very beautifully in this 1 8-step model. So let's do a quick summary, and then what I want to do is finish off with a few more slides for you to look at. This is our summary slide. So far I shared with you why purpose matters and how that ties in with the IDARE coaching model and how purpose actually shapes process. Because if you know what you're doing, why you're doing, for whom you're doing it, then it's going to shape the process. I also shared with you how to engage people behind the process. The IDARE model is a powerful tool to do just this. And I discuss intention, desire, and action. So let's move now. We're in the home run, and we're going to look at a little bit more on the predicting results. So let's take a peek at that. So I shared with you some of the powerful questions to get them to, you know, look ahead, go into the future, etc. But you always want to keep the intention at the core. So do remember to not set the intention aside that they said they're working towards. Keep it at the center. And when you ask those questions, impact of actions on intention, impact of teams on teams' attitude, overall impact, these are all making sure that any actions that they're predicting results about will come back to the intention. Sometimes you'll find people will change the intention that they originally started off with. That's all right. You know, there's nothing more powerful than a changed mind, according to T.D. Jakes, and I believe in that. We don't need to be the like people who say, hey, I was like this 30 years ago and this is exactly how I am today. You're walking dead. We need to change and grow. And so there's nothing wrong in changing your mind, right? So that's why it's critically important to, as a center, be very, very clear on your intentions so that people can be better guided, so that when they are setting their own smaller goals, they're tying in with your overarching intention. And I have here a beautiful slide of how to do the evaluation process. Just really powerful. And again, you have some examples on the model itself, but also here in the slides are some additional questions that you can ask, you know, specific actions. These are some that's actually on the model. What's needed to keep things moving forward? Are the results achieved? What was intended? What worked well? You're going to say why. What didn't work well? You're going to say why. So just a brief summary of what's on the model. And we're going to move through this one here very quickly, because we don't need to go through this again, so that you're going to become friends with this model. Now, I don't know how many of you actually have, you know, a formal work plan, but I really encourage you to have something, because it just gives you, it's a tool that actually helps you to have something to work towards. And again, it's a tool now that will be designed around your long-term goals, or in the overarching intention for why you're in business, some medium and some short term. So the purpose of this slide is to really bring the power behind IDARE. Let's say, yeah, and I'm really asking you guys to step up here, you know. Some of you might not be happy with this. You know, we're doing a great job taking care of the kids, and I say, amazing, that's awesome. But I want you to do more, and get a plan in place if you don't already have one. If you have a plan, I want you to look at that plan and compare it to some of these baseline questions that you're seeing on the slide. What are the top 3 long-term goals, say 10 years from today, both professionally and personally, do you have? And in order for you to have those goals become a reality, ask yourselves, what needs to happen? Who do you need to help? Then that would move you down to your top 3 medium-term goals 5 years from today. What specific actions will you take? And who will you collaborate with? Your 5-year goals now need to still connect to the 10-year goal, because everything that you do today will actually impact on who you are and what you've achieved 10 years from today. Then you're going to come down to your top 3 short-term goals, the next 12 to 18 months. What are the goals for each quarter? Who in your network can help? And how do you engage your people in the process? So notice you go really broad, 10 years, then you start to narrow into 5 years, then you narrow down into 12 to 18 months, into the quarters, and then each quarter will work out to be weekly. What do you do weekly? What do you do daily? And everything that you do on a daily basis, as I said before, will impact on your ability to achieve your goals 10 years from today. So this is just a brief sampling of our goal planning tool that I actually use with my own clients and get them to fill out. And so in a brief moment, we are going to wrap up our session for this week, but I want to, of course, I wouldn't leave you without a summary. So today, I introduced you to the IDARE coaching model, and I showed you how IDARE helps to define purpose, process, and people's needs. People are your staff, your children that you're working with. Their needs and care impact greatly on the welfare and well-being of your people, your customers, the parents. Their level of satisfaction and happiness will hinge very heavily on the welfare and well-being of your staff, your people. So they're an important part of our IDARE coaching model. And if you can recall, in the model, at the core, remember I stated it, is the coachee, the people. Very, very important. Then we looked at IDARE and how it actually will help you as managers, team leaders, etc., to use a process to work with your people. And you need a process. Without a process, you're going to have a lot of waste and a lot of errors and unhappiness, and people will feel overburdened, and people will feel unusually stressed because of, variation. Things change too much. They don't know where they're going, and they feel lost. So it's really, really important that you actually fine-tune whatever purpose you already have in place. If you don't have a clear, well-defined purpose, use IDARE and use your staff to actually help you now map out such a process. And then I also showed you how IDARE helps managers develop their people. When you take time to walk them through all of the 8 steps. Remember, assessing readiness for change, building and creating presence, then identifying intention, what they really value, what they really want to achieve, moving them into identifying desired solutions and getting them to choose those solutions that they would take actions on, getting them to accept their actions, getting them to predict the results that would come from the actions, showing them how, through the power of questions, they're part of the process, getting them to identify any possible obstacles, barriers that might come along their way, and then following through and follow up. And then when in your follow-up sessions, you go through an evaluation process. What worked well? What didn't work well? What did you do? What were the specific actions? This is how you develop your people to solve problems and improve their jobs. Make your life easy, make their lives easy as well. So IDARE is a powerful tool that can be used to develop people and free up managers to do other more important work. And of course, there will be examples, specific coaching examples in next week's session that we will go through. And of course, your homework, you know the routine. I've already sent the blog. Check your emails, please. Check your junk folder and just click on the link. It will take you directly to the blog for this week's session. What are you taking away from today's session? Because of today's session, what will you be doing differently at work or at home? I want you to post your comments on the blog for this week's session, and you've already received the link. And finally, for those of you who are filling out evaluations, I'm still not seeing them, but I'll have to do a search and see. But anyway, there should be an evaluation form sent to you shortly. Please fill that out. And next week, we're going to look at IDARE in action. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. We have 8 minutes left on the call. I'll stop the recording and I can stick around in the classroom should you have any questions that you would like to ask me more privately. I would be very happy to answer. So that concludes our session for today. And I send you off. Keep coaching, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.